change the system. I think there's a lot that we need to do differently.
My name is William MacDonald Campbell. I was born in 2005 at 18 years old, and I'd say I've got a interesting day-to-day life. I would describe myself as somebody who's very outgoing, not shy of new things. I definitely would say if there's an opportunity, I'll take it. I'm social, I'm pretty, down to earth, and I have a good grounded perspective in reality. I have my head in the clouds sometimes, but for the most part, I know what I'm doing and what it is that I have to be doing. I've lived here in this town for about 4 years. We moved a couple years ago here during the pandemic. What made me had to move was a while ago, we ended up moving out from my father's place. My father had passed away a couple years prior, and we just needed to find somewhere else to live, so we sold our house, and that began our journey of moving around the state. I moved from my hometown, Ferndale, to Clinton. Then we moved out from Whitby all the way to Long Branch on the Key Peninsula, where we stayed with my grandfather while my mom was attending a trade school. Then we moved from there to DuPont. As the story goes, pandemic hits, and we move up here to Marysville. Growing up in my early life, I remember it being pretty average for most kids, growing up in a suburban neighborhood. But I know that my mom and my dad had a bit of a rough relationship, so a lot of my memories before my father's passing with them were pretty much just them disagreeing and arguing on a lot of things, which eventually led them to have to live in separate houses. Before my father's passing, I remember him being a very, I wouldn't say a lot like me, but I would say a lot really aligned with what my values are now. Down to earth, realistic, but funny, and, outgoing above anything else. As for my mom, we've had a good relationship over the years, and I'd say it's been strengthened as time has gone on. She's a great woman, and I value her above anybody else. She's, fun, she's loving, she's caring, as most mothers should be. And on top of that, she is a wonderful person and has been an inspiration for a lot of things in my life. I'd say my mom has inspired me in a lot of ways. Her attitude and approach at life is more robust than I think a lot of women would put it. She's hardworking, she is sound and well-rounded as an individual. She's caring and very empathetic, which I think has rubbed off on me in a lot of aspects. And she's got a side of humor and humility to her as well. It's not easy when you lose a parent. It definitely will never be easy, no matter what age you're at. And I think that's the most important takeaway from this, because that's the person that you've grown up with for your entire life. And on top of that, you realize that's the person who is supposed to be there for you when nobody else is. Losing my father was like losing a lot of my childhood, essentially. I can't say it was easy, but I will say that it's made me a stronger person to be able to deal with a lot of what happened during that time. And I know deep down that my father, if he were still around and knew what I had to go through, he would be proud. I found a lot of different ways to get through my father's passing. Initially, I didn't have a way to get through the grief. I didn't really think a lot about my father's passing, probably just because of how traumatic the experience really was. But as time went on, I found a lot of different ways and mediums to, find my way and get myself back on my feet. And one of those ways, and the biggest aspect of my life, had to be music. Music was what saved me from really feeling the effects of grief over and over and over without really having a proper counselor around to like help me process my emotions. I really think back to like times where like if I felt sad, I'd just put on happy music, or if I was struggling with my emotions, I'd put on music that helped me sort of feel and understand what I was going through. And I relate a lot to the music that I listened to then and even now to help me understand myself more and help me express myself more. For the most part, I mostly stick to a lot of music from like the late 60s up to the late 90s, I'd say. All the ideas that are expressed throughout that time period, all the music and different instruments that they used, are just a lot more at home for me. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on the Jupiter Mars. I enjoy the kind of music that they produced. I enjoy the kind of values that they tried to like, exemplify and make more self-evident. On top of that, it's my inspiration. It's my music, and I like listening to like all that stuff. Music as a whole influences a lot of aspects in my life. It influences my behavior, it influences my mood, it influences, day-to-day life. At some point in my life, I definitely want to write a song that, has music, rhythms, rhymes that are immensely soulful, that it overall is something that people are gonna like long term into the future. Right now, I'm actually in a band. I'm not entirely certain where the future lies with it, but I know for a fact that, what we're doing right now is awesome. Where the band is heading, I'm sure we'll have good things in our future for it. Our band is primarily made up of me as the main vocalist. I mostly do a lot of the singing and songwriting. If I have some ideas, I'll write it down, I'll bring it up to the guys, and we'll be like, all right, so let's see what we can work with this. There's our lead guitarist, Nolan. He's got some phenomenal skills at, using the guitar and really just putting all of his heart and work into what he does. It would not be the band without that man. And then there's Elliot. He plays bass in the band, and overall, I'd say, he does a good job of what he does, and he brings a lot of good vibes to the band as well. So that's what we're at right now. I love you. The question of what I want to do with my life is not an easy one to answer, because life is unpredictable. What it is, though, that I want to aspire to do in my life is I really want to expand on my art, writing, music careers outside of work and just really pour my heart out into it. And at the end of my life, I think the most important thing to me that I really worry about every single day is my legacy. I know for a fact that what I want my legacy to be is something that can hold to the test of time. I don't want to be famous, but I want my kids and my kids' kids and those who come far after to at least know that I was trying to do something right for them. People say that you die twice. When the breath leaves your body and when the last person you know says your name for the last time. And when that time does come, I do really hope that my legacy that I leave behind is something better than what initially had begun. I want my legacy to be that I left the world a better place than it already started. Whether that be through inspiring people, whether that be through, writing and drawing and making things that make people happy, or whether that be just, raising the spirits of other people up and just making them feel more engaged with the life that they have. If I could go back in time, and if I could tell my younger self something, it'd be this. Don't tell yourself that you can't. Don't be afraid of opportunity. When I was a lot younger, I was always afraid of something. I was always thinking, like, if I do this, then that's gonna happen, and this, and then that. A lot of early anxiety. But what I realize now is that I missed out on a lot of things growing up because I just told myself I can't, I don't want to, I couldn't. And I really wish I didn't, because I could have had so much more experience and opportunity if I just stopped worrying and stopped caring. If I had the privilege and the opportunity to tell my father one thing, and one thing only, I'd say that I love him. I don't think I got that opportunity the last day that I saw him. I think I just remember I got on the bus, begrudgingly, another day of school, and I didn't think much else when I saw him for the last time as we drove off. I really wish I could have said that. You know, as teens and as young adults, we don't think about it that much, about our parents, because we just think we're gonna see them when we get home. If I had that opportunity, I would take it above anything else. I would take it over $1 billion, $1 trillion. I would take it over anything, because that is the one thing in life I wish I could have done. Life doesn't get easier, you know, and I'm sure enough that life will never get easier. But the thing you have to realize is that in life, you cannot let your mistakes haunt you. You cannot let the past control you. If you let all these different aspects of your life constantly dictate what it is that you can and can't do, then soon enough, you're just gonna be sitting alone in your room at the end of your life with nobody around who will ever be there for you but yourself. And one day, you're not even gonna be there for yourself. So stop limiting yourself and stop letting your limits dictate how your life should be. Go live a life that is worth living, because you only get one shot. Go do the stuff that you want to go do, and don't let other people tell you what it is that you should or shouldn't do.